She pulled back, and now you're sitting there replaying every conversation, trying to figure out what went wrong. You're wondering if you said something, or if you did too much, or maybe not enough. And the worst part is, you can feel the distance growing, and you don't know how to close it without making it worse. I want you to stop right there, because here's what most men don't understand. When a woman pulls back, it's rarely about something you said. It's almost always about something she felt, and more importantly, something she stopped feeling. Olivia here. Welcome back to HerAlgorithm, where we break down female psychology so you can stop guessing and start understanding. Today's video is one I've been getting requests for constantly, and that's exactly. How do you get her to chase you again? Not with manipulation, not with games, but with the kind of grounded psychological shifts that actually work. I'm going to walk you through 8 principles today, each one backed by behavioral psychology and real-world patterns I've seen play out over and over again. If you've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, pushed to the friend zone, or you're watching someone you care about slowly drift away, this video was made for you. And I need you to watch every single point because they build on each other. The ones at the end are the ones most men never get to, and they are the most powerful. Let's get into it. Point 1. Understand why she stopped chasing in the first place. Before you can flip any script, you need to understand why the chase stopped to begin with. And I'm going to be direct with you here, because this is the part most guys skip. Women don't pull back randomly. There is always a reason. And in 90% of cases, it comes down to one of 3 things. First, she stopped feeling tension somewhere along the way. Tension is what keeps attraction alive. It's the emotional uncertainty, the not quite knowing where you stand feeling that keeps her thinking about you at 2 a.m. But the moment she felt like she fully had you, the moment she could predict your every move and response, the tension disappeared, and with it, the chase. Second, you became emotionally over-available. And I don't mean available in a healthy, committed relationship kind of way. I mean you started pouring everything into her without her having to invest equally. You were always there, always ready, always responding, always accommodating. And here's the psychology behind why that kills attraction. When a woman receives effort without investing effort herself, she begins to unconsciously devalue the source. It's not cruel, it's just how the human brain assigns worth. We value what we work for, period. Third, she started sensing that your world revolved around her, and that your emotional state depended on her approval. When a woman feels like she is your entire focus, your entire source of happiness, your whole reason for getting up in the morning, it doesn't feel romantic to her. It feels like pressure. It feels like a weight she didn't sign up to carry. And so she distances herself, not because she doesn't care, but because your energy got heavy. Now, here's what I don't want you to do with this information. I don't want you to feel embarrassed or ashamed of any of that, because most men were never taught this. Nobody sat them down and explained attraction dynamics or emotional gravity or any of this. You just did what felt right, and it backfired. So now you're going to learn, and then you're going to adjust. Point 2, reclaim your emotional center. This is the foundation everything else in this video builds on this one point. Right now, where is your emotional center? Is it inside yourself? Or is it inside her? If you're being honest, most men in your position would say it's inside her. They're waking up and the first thing they think about is her. They're going to bed and the last thing on their mind is her. Every good mood, bad mood, piece of motivation, or moment of doubt is tied to what she's doing or not doing. That is the problem, and she can feel it, even when you don't say it. Here's what I mean by reclaiming your emotional center. It doesn't mean you stop caring about her. It means you stop giving her control over your internal state, your peace, your direction, your sense of self-worth. Those things need to come from inside you, not from her responses, not from her attention, not from whether she texted back. Practically speaking, this looks like picking up something you dropped when you started focusing on her. This could be the gym, a passion project, friends you stopped calling, a goal you put on the back burner. Whatever it is, go back to it. Not to make her jealous, not as a strategy, but because you genuinely need to remember who you were before she became the center of everything. When you do this, two things happen. First, you actually feel better because you have purpose and momentum outside of her. Second, she senses the shift, and shifts like this are magnetic to women. Even before you do anything differently, she'll notice an energy change in you, and she won't be able to fully explain why, but she'll start paying more attention. A grounded man is irresistible, not because he's playing games, but because groundedness is rare, and she knows it. Point 3. Stop feeding the chase. Let her feel the gap. Here's where the psychology gets really interesting. Human beings are wired to pursue things that move away from them and disengage from things that stay still or move toward them. This is true in predator-prey dynamics, it's true in status hierarchies, and it is absolutely true in attraction. When you are constantly available, constantly reaching out, constantly pursuing her, you are creating zero gap for her to feel. There is nothing for her to chase because you are already right there in her face before she even reaches for you. So what do? You pull back, and you pull back with intention. Not with anger, not with sulking, but with calm, deliberate redirection of your energy. This is not about ignoring her or going silent out of spite. The strategic version of this looks like this. You stop initiating as much, and when you do initiate, it comes from a place of genuine desire, not anxiety. You respond, but you don't over-explain. You don't chase responses. You don't double text when she doesn't reply. You let conversations end naturally, without forcing them to continue. And then you get genuinely busy because your life is expanding. Here's what she starts experiencing on her end. She reaches out and you're not immediately available. You're occupied with something that matters to you. You reply, but you're not hanging on her every word. You seem unbothered. Not in a performative way, but authentically. And that creates a gap in her mind. She starts to wonder, what's he doing? Why isn't he reaching out as much? Is he okay? Is he losing interest? And that wondering, that questioning, that's the seed of the chase. The gap is where attraction breathes. Point 4. Reintroduce unpredictability into your behavior. Predictability is attraction's worst enemy, and I want to explain why this goes beyond just texting strategy. When she can fully predict your emotional state, your reactions, your responses, your level of enthusiasm, she stops engaging her imagination around you. And when her imagination stops working, you've lost something critical. Women fall for men partly in their minds, and what they imagine about you in the gaps between interactions is often more powerful than anything you could actually do or say. So you need to give her imagination something to work with. This looks like being warm and engaged sometimes, and then naturally occupied and unavailable at other times. Not on a fixed schedule, but genuinely because your life has variety and depth. It looks like having opinions and holding them instead of always agreeing or accommodating. It looks like occasionally surprising her with something she didn't expect, a different kind of conversation, a different plan, a response she wasn't anticipating. Psychologically, this triggers what behavioral researchers call a variable reward schedule, the same mechanism behind why people can't put down their phones. The irregular and unpredictable delivery of positive experiences is significantly more compelling than consistent, predictable delivery. You want her to feel like she never quite has the full picture of you, like there's always more to discover. Because a man who still has mystery is a man she still has a reason to pursue. Point 5. Elevate your value visibly. I want to be very careful about how I explain this because a lot of men misunderstand it and end up doing it wrong. Elevating your value visibly is not about posting fake lifestyle photos or pretending to be busy or doing things specifically to make her jealous. Those are transparent and they backfire every single time. Women have very refined detectors for performance versus reality. What this actually means is genuinely leveling up in real, observable ways and letting her see it naturally. This could be fitness progress that shows up in the way you carry yourself. This could be professional wins that shift your energy and confidence. This could be your social world expanding, so there are new people, new events, new dynamics in your life. This could be intellectual growth that makes you more interesting to talk to. Here's why this works on a psychological level. Women are constantly running what researchers call mate value assessments. It's not shallow, it's evolutionary. They're asking, at some level, consciously or not, is this the best option available to me? Is he growing? Is he going somewhere? Is he becoming more or staying the same? When she sees you genuinely elevating her internal assessment, shifts in your favor. Not because you manipulated her, but because you actually became more attractive. And here's something most men don't consider. When you're visibly growing, the women around you will naturally respond to that energy, and she will notice those responses, even if you don't point them out. Women are extraordinarily attuned to how other women respond to a man. Social proof is not a trick. It is simply evidence of real value. Point 6. Master the art of emotional regulation. This might be the most unsexy sounding point in this entire video, but I genuinely believe it is the most powerful one. The ability to stay emotionally regulated when she pulls away, when she's distant, when she says something provocative, when she goes quiet, is one of the rarest and most attractive qualities a man can have in a modern dating context. Here's what usually happens when a woman tests a man by pulling back or creating distance. He panics. He overreacts. He sends multiple messages asking, "What's wrong?" He gets defensive. He gets needy, or he gets angry. All of these responses confirm to her that he is not emotionally stable, and emotionally unstable men do not feel safe to women, no matter how physically attractive or successful they are. What the high-value, emotionally regulated response looks like is completely different. You notice her pulling back. You don't spiral internally. You don't reach out 5 times. You calmly hold your position. You stay in your life. You stay grounded. And when she does reach out, you respond from a place of warmth and stability, not from a place of relief and desperation. Think about the difference in how those two responses land for her. When you respond from panic, she feels your fragility and it confirms her instinct to pull back. When you respond from stability, she feels your groundedness and it creates the safety and the curiosity that pulls her back in. There's a concept in psychology called emotional contagion, which basically means we absorb and mirror the emotional states of the people around us. When you are anxious, she will feel that anxiety. When you are calm and steady, she will feel that stability and be drawn toward it. Regulate yourself first, and the dynamic around you will follow. Point 7. Reintroduce tension through scarcity of approval. Here's a subtle but absolutely critical piece that most men never figure out. At some point in your dynamic with her, you probably became very generous with your approval, your compliments, your attention, your enthusiasm for her. And there's nothing wrong with admiring someone or expressing it. But when approval is given freely, constantly, and without her earning it, it stops meaning anything. Think about it from a simple human psychology standpoint. If someone told you you were amazing every single time you breathed, you'd stop believing it, and you'd stop caring about what they thought because their words carry no information. They tell you nothing because they're always the same. Scarcity is what creates meaning in the signals we send each other. So you pull back your approval, not to be cruel, but to make it real again. You stop commenting on everything she posts. You stop responding to every story. You stop volunteering compliments before she's done anything to warrant them. And when you do acknowledge something, it's specific, it's earned, and it's from a genuine place of actual being impressed, not from a place of trying to win points. What starts happening when approval becomes scarce is that she starts noticing when it's absent. She starts wondering why you didn't respond to that. She starts putting in more effort to get your attention because suddenly your attention means something again. The goal is to be a man whose recognition she wants to earn, not a man whose approval she takes for granted. Point 8. Create forward momentum without chasing everything. Up to this point has been about pulling your energy back and elevating yourself internally. But at some point, there has to be forward movement. And this is where men mess up again. They do all the internal work. They pull back, they grow, they regulate themselves, and then they get impatient and they rush back in too eagerly, undoing everything they've built. Forward momentum with a woman who has been distant looks like this. You create opportunities for her to close the distance herself. You don't force the interaction. You don't announce your growth. You don't come back with, "Hey, notice how I've changed?" Instead, you show up with your new energy. You let it speak first, and then you let her respond to it. A simple, low-pressure reach-out after a period of space works like this. Not, "Hey, why have you been distant?" Not, "Hey, I miss you and I hope we can work things out." It's, "Hey, something happened today that reminded me of you." Or, "Hey, I came across this thing I thought you'd actually find funny." It's light, it's warm, it creates an opening without pressure. And then you wait. You don't follow up immediately. If she responds, great, you engage from a grounded place. If she doesn't respond, you don't spiral because your emotional center is inside you, not inside her. What you're essentially doing is becoming the person she originally felt pulled toward and then reintroducing yourself without making a big deal of it. Attraction at its core is not about tactics, it's about energy. And the energy of a man who knows himself, knows his worth, and isn't afraid to lose her is the most compelling energy in any room, in any conversation, in any dynamic. Final thought. Let me bring this home for you because I want you to leave this video with the right frame. The goal here is not to trick her into chasing you. The goal is to become the kind of man that makes chasing feel worth her while. Those are two completely different things. One is manipulation and it doesn't last. The other is genuine self-development and it changes everything, not just with her, but in every area of your life when you reclaim your emotional center. When you stop handing over your approval for free, when you let the gap breathe, when you regulate your reactions, when you actually grow, you are not playing games. You are becoming a man of real value, and women can feel real value. It doesn't need to be announced. It doesn't need to be explained. It lands on its own. Most men will never do this because it requires patience, and it requires turning the focus back on yourself when every instinct says, chase her. But the men who do it, the men who put this into practice quietly and consistently, they stop wondering why she pulled away. because she doesn't pull away anymore. Olivia here. Thank you so much for watching this one all the way through. If this gave you clarity on something you've been sitting with, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below telling me which of these 8 points hit hardest for you. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!